Right now, there's no social acceptability, no.
Dirty spending. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a lot of dirty spending going on, not only in Canada, in America, and it's all getting brought out right now. Elon Musk has just put on a pause, I believe, for 90 days, 3 months of US foreign aid, which is similar to the Foreign Affairs Canada stuff here, because they're finding a lot of stupid spending. I'm going to be showing that and ping-ponging that with Canadian spending, which is far, far worse. We got some other ridiculous clips, including one from Doug Ford, Premier of Quebec, Francois Legault, among other stuff. Let's jump into this. So with Donald Trump putting the pause on the tariffs, we have all this backtracking going on. I showed in the previous video David Eby with the stumbling juice on the shelves and all that. But Doug Ford here, he's not backpedaling. He's taking credit for Trump making a deal with Trudeau. This is insane.
The pressure comes from the senators, the governors, the congresswomen and men that are getting calls from their constituents, shouting up and down and screaming. It's like 3,600 products the LCBO was ready to pull off the shelves. Just think of this, folks. 3,600 products, 35 states, and out of the 3,600 products, I'm guessing close to over 2,000 companies, all calling up their federal senator, their federal congressperson, their local congressperson, state congressperson, their governor. Lines are blowing up. There's one thing I learned. I've learned a lot. One thing, don't mess with people's booze. They lose their minds. And, you know, we pulled some booze off.
What is this guy? So he thinks it's the stumbling juice that did this?
Off the shelves last time, the bourbon in Kentucky. People love their bourbon. It's their country, their state, their religion, and then bourbon in Kentucky. That's how it goes.
I'm sure there was some pressure there, but come on, man. This has always been about the border. It's not the fact you did this whole stumbling juice thing. I'm voting New Blue Ontario. Doug Ford lost my vote after voting for him twice. The pandering to Trudeau. I mean, if you look at Doug Ford back when Trudeau got in, he was ripping him apart, saying he wasn't fit to be leader and all this kind of stuff. Actually, just before he got in. And now he just seems to bow to whatever Trudeau needs or wants. It was a bonehead move by Ford. Exactly. Check out this here. So bombshell news. We've got Francois Legault here, Premier of Quebec. There's been talks about opening up Energy East again and trying to get that pipeline built so Canada is more self-sufficient. What does he have to say about this?
I'm just wondering if during your discussions today, the issues of pipelines came up and whether Quebec would now support either an Energy East or some other kind of pipeline that would take Alberta oil out to markets other than the U.S.
Yeah. Of course, right now, there's no social acceptability for this kind of project right now in Quebec. But situation, the economy, and what Mr. Trump is doing may change the situation in the future. So if there's a social acceptability, we will be open to these kind of projects. But right now, there's no social acceptability, no.
Okay.
Is there social acceptability for removing redistribution payments from the West to Quebec? Come on, you guys can't be serving your own self-interest while getting paid by other provinces. Not to mention that Quebec gets the most amount of money from that when they could be generating that money themselves. There needs to be changes in this country. Boy, Team Canada sure disappeared quickly. Yeah, no kidding. Go Team Canada, not. There's a lot of people making fun of this. I was expecting this, people posting the images here. So $13.3 billion 2024-2025 equalization payments. Exactly. If you want this money, you have to let pipeline through. Otherwise, just cut this funding. And this is interesting too. Look at carbon pricing. Look who gets a lower rate. This isn't fair. None of this stuff is fair. This is, I've mentioned it so many times. It's not fair that I pay a carbon tax in BC. I don't get any of that money back. David Eby wastes the money. But on top of that, I still have to pay higher prices in gas and groceries, everything the carbon tax affects. And this is what we're talking about here. So this is the Energy East canceled. People don't think that this could be built. Maybe it's too late. Maybe the whole oil boom is too long gone. It seems a lot of countries are interested in liquefied natural gas. So jumping over to Canada's situation here with Far Off Ripoff, we've got the award search engine results. This is different than the foreign affairs, but it's kind of the same. It's money that's being spent on stupid projects. A lot of these do focus on things outside of Canada. And you can see here, this is what they look like. 851 pages of this. So I've been going through this. I come up with stuff like this, Lucien Wall or the future of film criticism in France. $32,000 criticizing films in France. Got this one, $35,000 on art, politics, and representation. Black feminist artistic praxis in Canada. Or we've got 35,000 spent on the role of colonialization, English and interlingual translations engendering the colonial subject, a study of Cpac people of Ghana. Well, why? Who said okay to this? Somebody said, you know what? That's worth $35,000 of Canadian taxpayer money in 2021. I should note here, when I'm bringing up this stuff or the foreign affairs stuff, all the stuff in the previous video was, I believe, from 2024. These things, you know, it varies, but all the ones I bring up here on the channel are all from 2016 forward, so all during the Justin Trudeau era. So with that, we have American news here. This is all coming out. Basically, there's a lot of wasted spending. It's called US aid, which is Global Affairs Canada equivalent spending in America. And I'm going to be ping-ponging examples going on here in Canada. So in Canada, we have a couple different ones. We have money given out for university projects, which are lesser amounts, usually $20,000 around there, upwards of $100,000. Then we have the Foreign Affairs Canada stuff, which is just the outrageous millions of dollars of spending.
President Trump and Elon Musk are moving forward to make significant changes to the U.S. Agency for International Development, and critics are arguing USAID has become a slush fund wasting taxpayer money. Now we're learning more about Elon Musk's small army to cut the wasteful spending. These young engineers were reportedly handpicked by Elon Musk, and the oldest is just 25 years old, and some of
So this team here, Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, it's a play on the Doge crypto coin. But yeah, this is the department that Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy are heading up in the US government.
them are reportedly still in college. Joey, I took notes. $1.5 million to advance the DEI in Serbia's workforces.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, USAID.
So I have an anecdote for you. I have a friend. She texted me a few hours ago, unsolicited. Didn't know I was on the show today. She said, I've been a contractor, subcontractor for USAID for 30 years. She said, I've been saying for a long time to my friends and family that it's a wasteful agency. We've done some of the stupidest projects you can ever imagine. Although it's now putting me partially out of business, it's a good thing, and that's what I voted for.
Turkish women and LGBTQ plus committed cinema. $17,500.
That's from somebody who has been a contractor, subcontractor, who has firsthand experience for 3 decades. I think it was Harold Ford yesterday on the 5 said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. Sometimes you need to hit delete and then start over again. Because the people that are working in that agency, they were approving these things. So that's a part of their ethos. And if they have to go home and not come back to work, that's probably the best thing that should happen.
Well, listen, it not only is it waste, but a lot of times, a lot of this stuff aggravates our allies and partners. It's ideologically controversial. So it's pushing things like abortion on conservative countries or the LGBTQ issue or climate ideology, and it aggravates our partners and allies. Of course, it aggravates a lot of Americans as well, and sometimes violates the consciences of Americans. Don't even want our taxpayer dollars to go to these things.
We've got the 1926 Battle of Kamamatsu revisited, $56,000. Teaching Bangla as a heritage language during the world event era, $20,000.
But I think the larger point is USAID was never meant to be purely charity, purely altruism. It's supposed to align with American foreign policy objectives and make sure that we have countries that are siding with the United States against our adversaries. Last point, recently went to a trip to India. India, conservative country. We want to partner with India to counter China. The Indian officials I talked to said they were irritated by the progressive policies that the Biden administration foisted on them. It hurt our relationship with India.
And this one in 2018, 17,500. Pure women, an eco-feminist approach to Tom Hardy's novels. Who okayed this? Somebody said, you know what, this is a great idea.
Yeah, I wonder how Serbia's workforces would feel about all that DEI. I'm sure they don't turn down the money, $1.5 million. But
of course not. And a lot of these countries are run by corrupt warlords. No wonder they're taking this money. They don't care. What agenda does Biden or Justin Trudeau have doing this? Jumping back over to Global Affairs Canada, let's rapid fire a few of these. So we've got accelerating green and climate finance in the Philippines, $4.5 million. Project aims to improve resiliency and environmental security of Filipino women and vulnerable communities. Support the climate financing environment in the Philippines. Why? Why would we do that? We've got almost $2 million spent on this project. Aims to improve and entrepreneurial ecosystems for women entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa so they can play a transformative role in the transition towards low carbon and climate resilient communities. This one partners with the Aga Khan Foundation. We've got this one here, $80 million. The African Development Bank Group. Project aims to provide financial, non-financial intermediaries. Basically, this is to help small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, farms, agri-food, yada, yada. This one's basically providing funding to farms in Africa. Why don't we provide funding to farms in Auditing Canada, $80 million. And this one here, this is quite the whopper. We've got $500 million. Canadian Climate Resilience Accelerator for Latin America and the Caribbean. This project aims to provide private sector investments in the climate change mitigation and adaptation across Latin America and the Caribbean while promoting gender responsive, sustainable economic development. $500 million. Really? To the Caribbean, Latin America? This is an outrageous amount of money. The Caribbean is home to the place where people launder their money. There's no capital gains. Bermuda, Cayman Islands, no income tax, no capital gains, no corporate tax. British Virgin Islands, Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, Turks and Caicos, Antigua, Panama. These are all places people go to hide their money. They shell corporations, no corporate tax. A lot of them, no personal tax. This needs to be investigated.
To your point, I mean, that's not in alignment maybe with some countries. I don't know about Serbia.
Yeah, look, this is the best 3 examples I've seen for the problems at USAID. I just want to highlight it. Emma Colton, FoxNews.com. Everyone read this. Number 1, Tom Cotton sends a letter October of 2023 to Samantha Power, who's administering USAID, and says, I have credible evidence that Hamas terrorists have received U.S. aid. Now, USAID denies that. Tom Cotton, however, not known for throwing random things to the wind. Number 2, Syrian National gets $9 million to Al-Nusra Front. Newsflash, Al-Nusra Front is a terrorist organization. Number 3, money gets to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Let's put a cherry on top. A Soros group is who Samantha Powers chooses to meet with several times during the administration. Those are the problems. And just to address the point, because there's this viral story about AIDS and PEPFAR and that not getting to children. Everyone wants to see African children helped. Everyone wants to see PEPFAR continue. Secretary Rubio addressed this just now in a press conference flagged for me by the State Department. Quote, we have issued a blanket waiver. If the program saves lives, they have a waiver. Straight from the Secretary of State.
Situated apathy, the politics of post-colonial climate apathy and the artistic mobilization in Sri Lanka. McMaster University, yep, that's where it was done. $20,000 of taxpayer money funded that load of crap.
And that is the tip of the iceberg for us funding terrorism, by the way. And yes, not only was it not supposed to be totally dependent, but also it wasn't supposed to be permanent. And self-reported from USAID, 4 out of 10 projects are not complete, are not fulfilled, objectives failed. That's self-reported. And that was in just 1 year, by the way, 2016 to 2017. So the whole point is we are funding failed projects that don't align with our values, that are funding actual terrorism, and is also in a time when we need to be focusing on ourselves. For a nation that's $3.5 trillion in debt, why in the heck are we spending so much money for developing nations on projects on these superfluous priorities when Americans are drowning right now?
We got this one here. Prime Minister Anthony Ballini's $100 million road upgrade connects to his extravagant $4.3 million coastal mansion. You can't make this stuff up. So it's happening in Australia too. This one is more self-serving. So they've even got a map here showing the connection. They even show the mansion itself. Well, there you have it.
And frankly, the notion that people are horrified by this, we talked about, there's a triage that needs to occur. So maybe in the future we'll revisit. Maybe in the future, DEI in the workplace in Colombia, okay, fine. But for right now, why don't you guys just take a pause? Because the concept that these other nations rely on unequivocally American handout for salaries or for benefits doesn't sit right with us. Why shouldn't we shore up the walls, fix the broken windows, and then look toward the community garden in someone else's town? It doesn't make any sense to prioritize
What you're
this.
saying is so fair, too. I didn't think of it as triage. I was just thinking audit.
Or we got this one, Goddess Inc., a feature-length screenplay. $17,500. No, never again.
But it's so bad now, it's probably going to feel like a disaster to go through and figure out where all the money is going. And I loved what you said. I mean, there will be some carve-outs. Former Senator Rubio, Secretary of State Rubio now, is looking for opportunities to do that. I mean, we do want to be good citizens in the world. We're the greatest country. Of course we do. But to your point, I mean, triage, audit, whatever you want to call it, we got to do it.
I mean, this is it, though. You can't be going around the world giving around money unless your own home is taken care of first. Canada's not taken care of. They're having this problem in America, too. And clearly in Australia, I'm going to look at other examples. I'm sure there's a bunch in the UK, others in Australia, New Zealand, etc. And to rapid fire a few more here, Franco Terrazzano posted these ones. Cartography tracking the birth, life, and death of an urban grocery cart from work product to work tool. $105,000? No. We've got 17,500 on She's Still Sounding, working towards a gender inclusive and intersectional piano curriculum. Revisioning yoga and yoga bodies, expanding modes of embodiment with non-normative bodies, 45 grand. These are just outrageous, like 7,700 teens self-fashioning on S-word and gender identities in online Harry Potter fan communities. So Franco dug up some pretty good ones here. As you saw, there's 800 pages of this, so it's probably endless what sort of nonsense we can find in there. You guys gotta check out this clip. So Trump just came out and said if Iran, this A-word, him, eliminates him, he has left instructions to obliterate Iran.
It's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That'd be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing.
It's Iran.
Basically attack anyone in the upper government and the whole country gets wiped out. Trump doesn't bluff. I don't think he's bluffing either. I think he did leave instructions and I think they would do it. And it's probably not just a Trump thing, as he mentioned with Biden. I think it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democratic president. They would do that. They just retaliate and exterminate. In all honesty, Iran has more important things to do than make the biggest mistake they could ever make. Estimated number of nuclear weapons per country. You can see here Russia with the most. North Korea, 20 to 30. Unknown for Israel. Next up, I got this one here. Is funny. The Liberal Party coming out with some newest Liberal candidates, like anyone cares. What I thought's kind of funny about this, like, look at this. So we've got 4 people, we don't know them, and it just shows, you know, Saskatoon South. By the way, the lighting on this photo is terrible. Like, look at them compared to the others, it doesn't match. But what's really silly about this, the Liberals want you to somehow get attached to these people. Isn't this like marketing 101? Why wouldn't they put like bakery owner, father of 3, mother of 2, does this, does that? Do something that people can latch onto. Putting a face with where they are. What value does this add to the people of Sherbrooke or Saskatoon South? Nothing. Recall Parliament cowards. You can't get away from this stuff. Every single comment everywhere is just ripping the Liberals. Well, there you have it. Are we surprised that it's not just Canada, America, Australia, other countries, Western countries? It's almost like they had a meeting, maybe somewhere at the WF, and decided that this was the plan going forward. Penetrate the cabinet. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Was this Klaus Schwab's plan? Was it some other plan? Did it have something to do with China? Who knows? One thing's for certain, though, with America having Doge to their Department of Government Efficiency, Canada needs its own Doge. We need our own Doge to clean up our own mess once Poilievre gets into power.